I finished watching Sirat and I didn't know what to do with it. And I don't mean that in a good way, like when a movie haunts you and you sit with it and eventually it settles. I mean, I genuinely didn't know if I liked it or hated it. I knew it had affected me, at least twice. It got me somewhere I hadn't expected to go. But I got to the end and there was just nothing. No landing. No sense of what I'd been watching for 2 hours. I could tell that there was something hidden under the surface that I just could not see. What did this story mean? So I did the thing I always do when my neurodivergent brain can't make sense of something. I went looking for an answer. The first thing I did was talk to people who had seen it, which made things worse, because nobody else seemed to have a problem with it. They'd watched the same movie, felt things, and then moved on. The idea that the story didn't fully resolve, that the meaning wasn't clearly assigned, that wasn't something they were losing sleep over. And I could figure out why that was fine with them. I didn't think they were wrong. I just couldn't understand it. To my neurodivergent brain, not finding the pattern isn't just frustrating, it's actually kind of unbearable. I'm always working hard to find meaning in things that most people just experience subjectively. So when I don't find it, I get kind of obsessed. Talking to people didn't give me an answer, it just made me more sure I needed to find one. So I went to the source. I watched every interview I could find with writer-director Oliver Laxe. Surely the guy who wrote and actually came up with the entire concept of the film must be the only person who can explain it properly. Here's the thing about Oliver Laxe though. He's almost the polar opposite of me. Not worse, not better, just operating from somewhere completely different. The way he sees the world, the way he talks about his work, it's all very interior, very intuitive. Where I'm looking for structure, he seems to be looking for vibes. So the more I watched him talk about Sirat, the less I understood what he was saying. All I could really take from those interviews was the movie is about music, it's about death, it's about looking inward. He talked about how dealing with death, actually sitting with it, being shocked by it, is something positive, healing even. That made sense to me as a philosophy, but I could not see how it translated into the story he had created. He also talked about wanting to shock the audience into considering death rather than processing it neatly like so many soapy Hollywood movies do. Okay, so I went back and thought about the deaths in the movie. The first happens halfway through the movie, and honestly, the way they pulled it off is remarkable. They set up the expectation that something terrible is going to happen near the cliff. Esteban and Pipa, the dog, are playing right at the edge. You're bracing for it. Then the father calls them out. Step away, get back in the car. And you exhale. Okay, close call, everyone's fine. And then the car rolls off the cliff with Pipa inside, the dog, gone. Oh, and Esteban was also in the car, so yeah, he dies too. You weren't scared when it happened because you thought the threat was already gone. That's the craft of it. They nullified the expectation and then pulled the rug when you weren't expecting. And I got it. I could see exactly what they'd done, but I still couldn't get to the why. What was this in service of? What does it mean? And it wasn't just the deaths. There are several confusing moments where the story seems to be leaning on a few recognizable tropes. The way the camera lingers on Josh when Luis mentions his daughter, I guarantee most people watching thought, this guy knows something. Or the way Biggie stares at Esteban, every alarm bell going off, waiting for something to happen. Nothing does. The film kind of hands you the shape of a payoff and then walks away from it. I kept watching interviews. I watched so many interviews, and I still didn't have it. Fine, I'll do it myself. I rewatched the movie, and this time I paid close attention to the story on its own terms. Luis, the father, is out there looking for his daughter. She hasn't reached out in a long time. He has his younger son with him, Esteban, and they're driving into the desert following a group of ravers who got cleared out of an area by the military. Because in the background of all this, there's a war coming, or something like a war. You keep hearing it on the radio, this sense of catastrophe gathering somewhere just off screen. So you have this outsider looking for something specific, following people he doesn't belong with into a desert while the world ends somewhere behind him. That's a story. That's a real, legible story. And I followed it. I tracked Luis committing to the group, the vehicle getting stuck, the moral dilemma after Esteban dies. They can't turn back. They're too deep in. They keep going. I tracked the morale dropping, the group deciding to take drugs and dance because what else is there? I tracked Luis at the speaker out of his mind, letting go of something for the first time. And I waited for the daughter to resurface, the whole reason he's out there, the thing that set everything in motion. I kept waiting for it to come back around. It never did. Like the last time the daughter is mentioned in the film is at the 52-minute mark. That's it. She just disappears from the story, halfway through. No resolution, no explanation for why he needed to find her in the first place. Was he just worried? Did he have something to tell her? Did he need something from her? We never find out. The movie just lets her go. And then the second rug pull. They're all high, dancing, and you think, this is the turn. This is the grief scene, the acceptance scene, the moment the film has been building towards. The father surrendering to the music feels like it means something. Then one of the characters steps on a landmine and explodes. And then another one does. And then both trucks blow up. And then Luis just walks towards the rocky hill because that's the only option left. It plays out like a thriller, a minimalist, survivalist thriller. And I'm sitting there thinking, what is this? Is this actually what this movie is? Because that doesn't match anything the director said in any of those interviews. He's talking about looking inward and accepting death, and the movie is doing landmines and exploded trucks. I still didn't have the answer. I'd rewatched the whole thing and I was more confused than when I started. And that's when something shifted. Not because I found the answer, because I finally noticed what I'd been doing. I'd been treating this film like a puzzle, like there was a correct reading somewhere in the story and I just hadn't reached it yet. I'd asked other people, I'd gone to the director, I'd rewatched the whole thing, taking notes. I was searching the movie the same way Luis searches the desert. Committed.
Yo voy a seguir un rato más. ¿Vale?
Methodical.
Sí, pero es que no se trata de ser tacaño. Se trata de ser previsor.
Increasingly desperate. Looking for something specific that keeps not appearing. And then I went back to the interviews one more time, and I heard Laxe say something I'd heard before, but I hadn't really landed on. He talked about spending years in Morocco, going to raves, taking psychedelics, dancing. He talked about images that came to him during those experiences, images that were so powerful to him that he carried and protected them for 12 years to inspire this movie. And he knew that by the time those images became a film, they'd already be dead. He believes that's just what the process does to them. So he spent 1.5 years just creating the music with composer Kanding Ray, trying to make sure this film was the most faithful cinematic translation he could make of whatever those experiences he had actually felt like. Not what they meant, what they felt like. I understood what he was saying. I had been to similar raves in the desert, taken psychedelics, surrendered to the music. I knew what that kind of experience could feel like, and yet, when it came to actually watching the film, I defaulted to my usual way of watching, assuming the story had to mean something. The daughter was never a mystery to be solved. She was the image of a reason, an outsider's need to be somewhere he doesn't belong. The desert was never a setting, it was the feeling of going further than you can come back from. The music, the drugs, the dancing, that wasn't a character moment, that was an invitation. The whole film is an invitation. And the landmines, maybe that's just what it feels like when you're deep inside something that has no logic and strips away all of your choices. The fact that they got so far without blowing up is confounding, but the confusion is part of the experience of reducing oneself to nothing. Laxe was trying to replicate the humbling experience of going through the loss of hope and realizing how small you are in the grand scheme of things. When the ground becomes unpredictable, when the only move left is to stop caring, stop trying to figure out the path, and simply walk towards the solid rock. None of it resolves because it was never trying to. He made a movie about surrendering to an experience, and I had been inadvertently refusing to surrender all this time. Maybe the surrender looks like the last scene when the characters seem to have achieved serenity after experiencing fear, sorrow, and grief. They no longer look like outsiders, but rather blend in seamlessly with the people around them, their pain and suffering indistinguishable from everyone else's. The last shot is a beautiful analogy for the bridge the title refers to. In Islamic tradition, the Sirat is described as narrower than a strand of hair and sharper than a sword, a bridge over hell that souls must cross to reach paradise. I don't know if Sirat is a great film. I think it might be. I think it does something very specific very well, and that thing is just not what I was looking for. If you go in trying to track the story, what happened to the daughter? What does the war represent? How did Luis bury those bodies without blowing up? How the hell did they get into that train? You're going to be frustrated, genuinely frustrated. The film is not interested in those questions, and it's not going to answer them. But if you go in the way Luis eventually stops fighting the music, if you let it move through you instead of trying to hold it still long enough to read it, I think it does something. I think it gets somewhere real, whatever that is to you.